Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be checking out some awesome battles in the Great League Remix Cup featuring the triple high horsepower team. These battles were submitted to the channel by a fellow content creator, Battle Bill, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now this team features Galarian Rapidash on the lead with Piloswine and Mamoswine in the back. All three Pokemon got high horsepower with the Season 13 update, and Bill is able to go on quite a run with the team. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out the triple high horsepower team in action in the Remix Cup. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrible lead, Galarian Rapidash into Cofagrigus. Mamoswine save switch is going to be met with Toxapex, and this is a situation where having high horsepower is definitely going to come in handy. High horsepower, massive damage, already getting the Toxapex into the red. Toxapex is able to hit for super effective damage in return with Brine, so we are going to see a shield from the Mamoswine. Mamoswine is going to overfarm and fire off an Avalanche before Toxapex is able to reach a second Brine. Toxapex, trying to grab the final shield, is going to commit a shield themselves, but Mamoswine can very safely shield here, Powder Snow all the way down, and leave with a ton of energy to threaten whatever the opponent decides to bring in. Opponent is going to send back in the Cofagrigus, which will be met with the loaded Avalanche. Avalanche is able to connect. Mamoswine able to reach Avalanche number 2. This will be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and we see an aggressive switch into Piloswine, not wanting to give the Cofagrigus any extra energy by allowing them to farm down. Cofagrigus fires off the Dark Pulse. In the back is a Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz has absolutely nowhere to run versus this team. Avalanche will connect, dealing massive damage to the Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz will fire off a charge move, but now you can send in the Rapidash and massively overfarm. In comes the Rapidash. Rapidash looking to overfarm quite significantly, and the opponent concedes the match. The tough leads continue in the next match, Galarian Rapidash into Noctowl. We are going to see an immediate save switch into the Mamoswine, and the opponent is going to respond with Obstagoon. These counters absolutely shredding through the Mamoswine. Avalanche does get a shield from the Obstagoon. Honestly, that's about best case scenario. Grab a shield advantage, and then hope that Piloswine with a shield advantage is going to be able to close in the end game. Definitely important to wait the timer here, as you want the ability to switch after the Rapidash is able to get rid of the Goon. Goon is going to start firing off some charge moves here. Obstagoon is going to go for the Night Slash. Night Slash hits for some pretty significant neutral damage. Rapidash overfarms and fires off the high horsepower on CMP. Very nice counting. High horsepower is able to KO. Opponent is going to send back in the Noctowl, going for the Body Slam for a little bit of chip damage, and then it's all up to Piloswine. In comes Piloswine. Opponent is going to send in a Diggersby, and Diggersby is in an absolutely awful spot to be in. Firing off this Avalanche. This Avalanche is going to grab the final shield from the opponent. Diggersby continues to farm, and it loses CMP to the Piloswine. This Avalanche hits for massive damage, nearly KOing the Diggersby. Decision time. Do you shield? He is going to shield, and he shields the Fire Punch. This should just be a Fire Punch. Is going to be committing the second shield, however, because after you farm down, Noctowl is not going to be able to one-shot here, even if they go for the Shadow Ball. Noctowl is going to be firing off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball, not enough damage. Piloswine able to hang on, reaching the last second Avalanche. Avalanche will take care of the Noctowl. Moving into the next match, picking up yet another tough lead, Galarian Rapidash into Galvantula. Immediate Mamoswine save switch, opponent is going to respond with Drapion, and this looks like a matchup that Mamoswine can actually flip. Drapion is going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch connects, and the opponent does get the ever-important debuff. Building up to the high horsepower, going to be firing off the Avalanche. Avalanche is going to get the shield. Mamoswine does get to Avalanche faster than high horsepower, so there is definitely an advantage to just going straight Avalanche in this matchup. Mamoswine commits the shield, continues to farm, and is very close to the back-to-back moves. Firing off the first one, Drapion is going to commit the shield. Mamoswine able to get to another move. This will be taking out the Drapion. Mamoswine winning switch advantage and shield advantage. Galvantula does get a massive farm down here as they leave with a lot of energy. But now he can align that Galvantula onto the Piloswine, and Piloswine is going to be double resisting these Volt switches. Galv is going to fire off a Lunge. Lunge is going to hit for neutral damage and get the ever important attack drop. He's going to continue to farm here, opting to commit his final shield because he wants extra energy. We'll have to see what the opponent has in the back. Farming up very close to the back-to-back avalanches. Firing off the first one, that's going to KO the Galv in the back. It's a Pelipper, and Pelipper is going to get hit with some neutral damage from the avalanche. That avalanche is debuffed, but now in comes the Rapidash. Rapidash is just so spammy. Reaches the Body Slam. Body Slam is going to get the Pelipper low. Pelipper will have to fire off a Hurricane to KO here, and then they're just not going to have enough damage to take out the Piloswine. They go for the Weather Ball, and that is a good game. Nightmare lead in the next match, Galarian Rapidash into Jellicent. And honestly, Jellicent is a massive core breaker for this entire team. We do see a switch into Mamoswine. Opponent is going to farm up, and this is enough for a Shadow Ball. Decision time, he's going to shield, and does correctly shield the Shadow Ball. That is big. Going to return fire with the high horsepower here. Jellicent is going to let that through, and that does a massive amount of damage. Mamoswine is able to reach an avalanche and apply a lot of pressure onto the Jellicent. Jellicent is forced to commit the shield. Jellicent is going to fire off another charge move. Mamoswine commits the shield, and it is a second Shadow Ball. Is Mamoswine going to be able to farm down here? Not quite able to do so as they reach a last second Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam is going to get the Mamoswine low. Opponent tries to go for a snipe, and they're met with the high horsepower. High horsepower is going to get shielded, and now in comes the Piloswine. Piloswine desperately needs to reach the high horsepower versus the Alolan Sandslash. Sandslash goes for the Bulldoze. That hits for neutral. Continuing to farm up and firing off this high horsepower. This is going to do massive super effective damage, taking out the Sandslash. In the back, the opponent has Golbat, and they are in absolute dire straits here. Piloswine, Avalanche, taking out the Golbat, and Piloswine sweeps the team. Moving into the next match, picking up a pretty decent lead, Galarian Rapidash into Steelix. This is a matchup that is directly helped by the fact that Rapidash now has high horsepower. High horsepower gives Rapidash much needed coverage against steel types and poisons. High horsepower gets shielded. In comes Mamoswine. Mamoswine is going to be met with the loaded energy from Steelix. Calls a bait, and it's the Psychic Fangs. That is a big read. Steelix is going to fire off another Psychic Fangs as well. Mamoswine should be able to tank this. Opponent goes for a snipe with Machamp, and Machamp is going to be met with a loaded Avalanche. Avalanche gets the shield, and now Shadow Machamp is shieldless. And without shields, Shadow Machamp is a lot less scary than it typically is. Machamp opts for a Cross Chop. Cross Chop will do a little bit of chip damage, but not a ton since Rapidash does double resist it. Rapidash is going to slightly overfarm, go for the high horsepower, and this will easily KO the Machamp. If the opponent brings back in the Steelix, they're going to get nuked by high horsepower. Do we see their third Pokemon here? And we do. It's Golbat. Continuing to farm up here. Piloswine, not quite able to reach a move. We do see a shield used. It's just a Poison Fang from the Golbat. And Piloswine is able to reach the Avalanche. This will hit for massive super effective damage. Down goes Golbat. Back in comes Steelix. Steelix in a very tough spot here as Piloswine is able to reach high horsepower. Hello, Steelix. Goodbye, Steelix. And that is a good game. Great lead in the next match, Galarian Rapidash into Obstagoon. This is absolutely where you want to see the counter user, and the Obstagoon is staying in, which is even better news. Goon just going straight for the Night Slash here. This does hit for neutral, but Rapidash is able to tank it. Rapidash continues to farm, goes for the high horsepower, but an absolutely insane catch by the opponent, catching the high horsepower onto Noctowl. Noctowl is going to be met with Mamoswine. Mamoswine farming up, and there's a charge move coming in from the Noctowl. Sky Attack does quite a bit of damage. We're going to see Mamoswine significantly overfarm to the back-to-back avalanches. Let's apply some pressure onto the Owl. Noctowl is going to let that go. Mamoswine does have an avalanche loaded, so if the opponent brings back in the Obstagoon, they are going to get hit with an avalanche. Opponent does exactly that. They're met with the Avalanche. Avalanche does get shielded as the opponent farms down. The unfortunate thing is Rapidash lost a lot of energy when that high horsepower was caught onto the Noctowl. Back in comes the Rapidash. Rapidash is met with the loaded Obstagoon. Rapidash commits the shield on the Night Slash, and Obstagoon gets a boost. Oh man, this is really not good. We are going to see a Body Slam fired off by the Rapidash and a shield by the Obstagoon. The opponent knows if they're able to keep this Goon alive, it could have sweeping potential. Second Body Slam is going to get the Goon low. It's CMP. I think you just trust in your Piloswine here. Piloswine will have to take some boosted counters, but Piloswine is going to be met with a Pelipper in the back. Pelipper is going to fire off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball will, of course, hit for super effective damage. The question is, Is Piloswine going to be able to reach the double avalanches here? Firing off the first one. This avalanche is going to get Pelipper low. Piloswine is going to get outpaced. Oh man, this is not good. Weather Ball takes out the Piloswine, and that is a good game. Moving into the next match, picking up a pretty interesting lead, Galarian Rapidash into Dunsparce. Dunsparce does have some pretty nice coverage moves in Rock Slide and Drill Run, but since it can't get same type attack bonus on either one of them, it leaves it feeling a little bit underpowered. They're going to fire off the Drill Run into the Rapidash. Rapidash is going to return fire with the Body Slam. Body Slam will do some chip damage, and we see Body Slam number 2 being fired off by the spammy Rapidash. Rapidash is going to continue to farm and makes a beautiful switch into Mamoswine. Mamoswine is going to be able to absorb that Drill Run damage and begin to farm. Dunsparce continuing to farm as well, and Mamoswine is able to force a CMP tie. Very nicely done. Avalanche is going to KO the Dunsparce. We'll have to see what the opponent has in the back. They have a Mandibuzz in the back, so they are extremely weak to Mamoswine. Mamoswine is going to commit the shield, trying to reach the back-to-back avalanches, and Mamoswine should be able to do just that. Mamoswine fires off the first avalanche. We see the shield committed. Mamoswine continuing to farm, and unfortunately farmed a little bit too much, allowing Mandibuzz to reach another foul play. Mamoswine firing off the avalanche may honestly be able to reach a third versus the Mandibuzz. It's going to be close. Mamoswine is very low. We see an aggressive switch into Toxapex, which is met with the Piloswine. Piloswine will take super effective damage from Brine, but Brine, not the greatest move, so Piloswine is able to tank it and return fire with the high horsepower. As we've seen, this does a massive amount of damage onto the bulky Toxapex. Toxapex continues to farm, barely able to outpace the Piloswine, and Piloswine will get taken out. Mamoswine still does have some energy, so I think you kind of have to bring in the Rapidash here and save the Mamoswine energy for taking out that Mandibuzz in the back. We are going to see the Body Slam reached. This should be taking out the Toxapex, and then the question is, can Mamoswine reach the Avalanche? Yes, it can. Very nicely done. Avalanche takes care of the Mandibuzz and secures the win. Picking up a pretty nice lead in the next match, Galarian Rapidash into another Steelix. As discussed before, Rapidash can stay in this matchup now, thanks to high horsepower. Rapidash is going to go straight for the high horsepower right off the bat. High horsepower is going to be able to land. Rapidash continues to farm. Neutral Crunch would do some significant damage here, but Steelix opts to go for the Psychic Fangs. Rapidash able to tank that, overfarm, and then fire off the Body Slam on the CMP tie. Body Slam is going to KO, and Rapidash wins lead. Opponent is thinking about it, and they concede the match. Hopping into the final match, picking up a fairly interesting lead, Aurorus into Galarian Rapidash. Both of these Pokemon do have hard-hitting nuke moves, Aurorus with the Meteor Beam, and Galarian Rapidash, of course, does have high horsepower. This Aurorus, however, decides not to try and bait a Meteor Beam, just goes straight for the Weather Ball, which allows Rapidash to comfortably no-shield. Rapidash fires off high horsepower, and we do see a shield from Aurorus. Aurorus firing off another Weather Ball, we see a shield from the Rapidash. Is Rapidash going to be able to make another high horsepower here? It's going to be close, and Aurorus is able to get there. That is massive. This high horsepower is going to get the second shield, and now in a bit of a tricky spot. This Aurorus has no shields, but it does have quite a bit of energy, and Meteor Beam would do a massive amount of damage. In comes Mamoswine, electing to let it through, and calls the Weather Ball. That is a huge call. Mamoswine is going to commit the shield. Mamoswine desperately needing to try and reach a high horsepower here. Mamoswine is able to get there. This high horsepower is going to be taking care of Aurorus. Aurorus is out of the picture. We'll have to see what the opponent has in the back. They have Shadow Machamp, but they switch. Oh my goodness, a huge mistake by the opponent. They saw the switch. They switched as well, and now the opponent is going to lose this game as Piloswine can double up on the avalanches. First one will take out the Noctowl, and the second one will take out the Machamp. Just because your opponent switches doesn't mean you have to as well. Piloswine taking out the Machamp and securing the win. All in all, the triple high horsepower team put in a surprising amount of work, especially that Great League Mamoswine. Definitely a Pokemon that's better in the Master League, but I was surprised by how much work it was able to put in, even only at 1500 CP. And as for the battler, Battle Bill, he does stream daily on Twitch, so definitely go check him out. And he also has a YouTube channel. I will have a link to that in the title. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.